writer, translator Laima Winter.
I'm going to read an excerpt from my novel, Better a Bad Year. The basic premise of the novel is that it tells the story of 4 Lithuanian women in America. The eldest generation is a simple woman from the village. She is known in her village as a healer. She uses herbal charms to heal illnesses, but when she ends up after World War II in the Bronx, she loses her abilities to heal, and that's very disconcerting to her. The second generation is Maria. Maria is basically brought to America by a middle-aged man as a mail-order bride. She runs away from her mail-order bride to live and bear children for her alcoholic lover. The other 2 women are their daughters, who are born and raised in the United States. One is raised by Maria and her husband, Gigimantas, who goes by the name of Ziggy in America. And the second one is adopted into an American family, and they're reunited already as adults. The excerpt that I'm going to read to you is from Maria's early childhood. It's some of the background that forms the person that she is. She loses her entire family because her parents were hiding resistance fighters in their home and they were discovered. So this chapter is called Hide and Seek. The day Maria knew for certain about the existence of the hidden door in the floor under Mama's bed was one of those days when it was so cold the sky was a bright blue that turns dark violet just before the stars come out at night. It was one of those days when the sun shines so intensely that when Maria looked out the window, the light reflecting off of the snow almost blinded her. It was one of those days when Maria did not feel safe, and nothing could take away the feeling of fear that settled deep in her stomach. It felt as though Maria had swallowed the cold metal awl her dada used to cut holes in leather before the Russians came and took him away to Siberia. When the days were dark and gray, and a light gray rain fell constantly, Maria felt as though their family were hiding in the shadows, and no one could get to them. On those days, her stomach did not hurt as much. But on days like today, it was as though God had given up on keeping them safe and was shining a bright lamp directly onto them. On such days, anything could happen. Maria and Vilma and Mama were standing in Mama's bedroom. Mama shoved the bed aside and pulled up what looked like part of the floor. Dede Rimas's curly-haired head emerged. Vilma and Wanda shrieked and giggled, but Maria did not. She didn't like the look of that head coming up from under the floor as though it had been chopped off and was floating around, not attached to a body, just like Stalin's head on the pin teacher wore on her lapel every day. Then Dede Rimas's upper torso emerged. He swung his legs up and onto the floor and rose to his full height. Dede Rimas, what are you doing down there? Vilma shrieked. Mama said, hush, Vilma, don't ask so many questions. I was hiding, Dede Rimas said in a matter-of-fact kind of voice, as though it were nothing at all. Ooh, hide and go seek, can I play too? Vilma shrieked. Of course, Dede Rimas said. I want to play too, Wanda shouted. Only Maria didn't feel sure. She knew there were chores to do. Leave our guest alone, Mama said in her mama's voice. No, it's all right. I'll help them with their chores later. You can play, Dede Rimas said. All right then, Mama said. I will go to my work. Maria thought it was strange that Mama did not insist they do chores first. Mama always insisted on work and then play. But Dede Rimas made everything different in the house. Maria, you count to 100, and Vilma and Wanda will hide. But you cannot hide in my bunker because that would be too easy. It wouldn't be fair, Dede Rimas said. Bunker? Why was Dede Rimas calling a hole in the floor his bunker? Before Maria could even consider asking, Vilma and Wanda ran off to hide. Now it was up to Maria to count. As always, the heaviest burden fell on Maria. She was 11 and almost a grown-up. Since the Russians had come and taken Teta away, she had to help Mama with everything. Wanda was 8 and could help a little, but Wanda was 5 and just a baby. Maria covered her face with her hands and began to count slowly and evenly. Vienas, do, tris. As she counted, Maria listened to her sister's footsteps. Wanda was easy. Maria knew immediately where she would hide. The same place she always hid. She would slide under the couch in the parlor and pull down the linen covering. But with Vilma, you could never know what she would think of. Maria listened as Vilma trotted back and forth, scurrying between the parlor and the bedroom and the kitchen. Then she heard Vilma whispering and Diaderimas whispering and Vilma giggling. He shushed her and she stopped. Then she heard some rustling and it was quiet. Finally, Maria reached a hand. Shimbas, she cried out. Maria took her hands away from her eyes and looked around her. Diaderimas was sitting on the couch reading the Communist Truth. Mama paid for the newspaper every month so that the people in their village would think she was one of them. But Mama never read it, only Diaderimas did. Maria thought that was strange, considering that Diaderimas was a forest brother, and the forest brothers protected people like them. Maria heard Mama say that all Russians were communists and that the Lithuanians who joined with them were communists, and the Communist Truth was their newspaper and not theirs. Their newspapers were the secret ones the forest brothers brought to them, the ones that Maria had to carry to the neighbors who Mama told her were on the same side as them in this war that nobody else in the world knew about. These newspapers wrote about how one day soon Lithuania would be a free country again, about how they just had to hold on and wait until the Americans got there to help them fight. Maria ran to the couch, bent down, lifted the corner of the linen covering that hung to the floor, and called out, "I found you!" Wanda called out from under the couch. She was scowling, but Maria did not pay any attention to her. It was her own fault for always hiding in the same place every single time. Now she only had to find Vilma. She felt warm inside from the pleasure of the hunt. First, she searched in the bedroom. She looked at the bed coverings, not in the bed. She looked under the bed, not there. She opened the wardrobe, not there. She peeked behind the wardrobe, because you never knew. But Vilma was not there. She opened Mama's dowry trunk, not there. Norma was in there nursing her kittens. She would search the parlor. As she was leaving the bedroom, she thought she heard Vilma giggle. She hesitated in the doorway, but no, maybe not. Maybe it was the cat. She went back into the parlor. In the parlor, she looked under the couch again. No. She looked under the table. No. In the corners. No. Diaderimas had not left the couch where he was still reading the Communist Truth and smirking to himself over whatever it was he was reading. Diaderimas, did you see where Vilma is hiding? Maria asked. No. I was busy reading the newspaper, Diaderimas answered, and lowered the newspaper just the slightest to glance at her. Maria went into the kitchen. She looked in the potato bin. She looked in the pantry. She looked in all four corners. She looked everywhere and no Vilma. That was when Maria grew scared. Vilma was gone. It was not a game anymore. Maria had searched the house completely and Vilma was nowhere to be found. Maybe the silly girl had fallen into the well? What would Mama say? Maria would be in so much trouble. Vilma! Maria shouted. Silence. I've lost her, Maria cried and ran into the parlor. Maria was crying for real now. Shush, Diaderimas said, I'll help you find her. Diaderimas stood and walked into the bedroom. Maria followed close behind. Diaderimas went straight to the wardrobe and reached up to the top of it. Maria strained to see what was up there. All she could see were bolts of Mama's woven fabric. The bolts Mama had spun last winter and had put up on the wardrobe for when she would need them. Diaderimas gently lifted one of the bolts of fabric and carefully set it down on the floor. He unrolled it, and Vilma jumped out. I won! I won! I won! Vilma shrieked. You couldn't find me! You couldn't find me! Big sister couldn't find me! Vilma stopped jumping up and down. Big sister, why are you crying? Vilma asked. Because I thought I had lost you forever, Maria said and began to cry harder. Oh no! Diadema is so good at hiding. He hid me the best. When I grow up, I want to be as good at hiding as Diadema, so the Russians can't find me either. Maria saw a dark look come over Diadema's face. He walked over to the window and patiently pulled the curtain and peered outside. Mama came into the room. Girls, you have chores to do. Enough playing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation is at 3 o'clock sharp, so you are welcome.